whispers and rumors that don't get reported. Stories I write that are often distorted. Got my notebook and pen, and I'm ready to listen. Tell me the truth, I'll consider your position. I've seen killers with eyes so cold and dead, and others go to prison because of what someone said, rotting away for the rest of their lives, leaving a hole here on the outside. Things are sad here on Earth, and it's no wonder why, when you consider the sociopaths who remain in charge. It's me who sees the system for all its flaws, and I usually start with the probable cause. My right hand is reading the probable cause. Welcome to The Probable Cause. This is a podcast covering the criminal justice system in Allen County, Indiana, northeastern Indiana, and the state. I'm your host, Jamie Duffy, a locally based journalist, and on my left over there is our co-host, Michael McAlexander. He is the Allen County Prosecutor. Today we have a very special guest, Christopher Meihls, an Allen County Deputy Coroner, and so much more. We're going to learn his story. He has been in the coroner's office for as long as I've known him, and before that, I believe he had a career with the Fort Wayne PD. But I actually had someone request that we have the coroner's office on our podcast, and so I thought it was perfect and contacted Christopher because he is so knowledgeable. On another note, here at the Allen County Prosecutor's Office today, they are celebrating Administrative Professionals Day, and everyone got homemade ice cream. Now, Mike, just how important are your administrative professionals? My thought is they keep your office running.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the lawyers go into court and do things, but the prep work behind it is so dependent on a dedicated staff to round up witnesses, make sure people are where they're supposed to be, contact professional witnesses, try to work around their schedules for trials. I mean, it is like putting on a play. And
all the headaches that come with it.
And all the headaches that come with it, because we end up having to bring people in from, we had a case recently that didn't go, but we had kind of a witness on standby in Mexico to come back for a trial. So it not only costs money to bring folks up from Florida, Texas, wherever they happen to be. Right. And then putting them up, finding hotels. Some of these people struggle with things, so there's a lot of hand-holding that goes on. Yeah. So they're extremely valuable and very dedicated.
I believe it. What about courts?
Last week we didn't really have much because there was a judicial conference. This week we had I believe a serious violent felon with a handgun case that we got a guilty verdict this morning.
Mm-hmm. That's probably good if he's a serious violent felon. Yeah, off the streets for a little while anyway.
I believe Judge Gull did not have trials this week because she usually does the honor flight, and I know the honor flight took off early this morning.
Yes, they did.
To go to D.C. So.
Interesting. I was in court last week to cover the pre-trial hearing for the Pikes Pub 6. These are the 6 men accused of beating up a black man on May 30th of 2025 at Pikes Pub in Waynedale. Through their attorneys, they asked to continue the case, meaning that they wanted to postpone the trial, which is slated to begin on May 18th. Judge Fran Gull denied that motion. She said they had a month, which is plenty of time to depose a few more people and obtain more medical records. Outside, I did speak with Douglas Zuber, the bar owner Kelly, and Zuber's daughter Crystal. They reiterated what the attorneys said, their attorneys anyway, that there were more depositions to be held, already had 18, and there were more medical records they were waiting for. It was an interesting exchange, and I invite you to check it out on our page, The Probable Cause, Facebook page, that is. Anyway, it was fun. Now, I want to remind you that there will be, this is like church announcements, if you ever sit in church, you know, and it goes on and on and on. I went to a church in New Jersey where I tell you it was like a performance, but anyway, and it wasn't me. I want to remind you that there will be a mental health summit on May 19 at the Allen County Coliseum. It is a free event and open to everyone. Allen County Superior Court Judge Andrew Williams has been organizing this summit for 3 years now. He is our mental health judge, and you can find our podcast with him on our website and on our Facebook page as well. Now, because we've got a lot to cover, on to my co-star, actually, Christopher Meihls. We were both featured in a couple of true crime shows, one about April Tinsley.
Yes.
And the other one, I believe you were on Mean Girls, concerning the stabbing death of Stacy DeGrandchamp by Holly, this is hard for me to say now, Boisvert, because it really should be pronounced Boisvert. But anyway, never mind. Now, what is a coroner? A coroner is an elected or appointed official responsible for investigating sudden, violent, suspicious, or unexplained death within a jurisdiction. They identify the deceased, notify next of kin, determine the cause and manner of death, and sign death certificates, often working alongside law enforcement. Core responsibilities of a coroner death investigation: conducting investigations into the death that are unexpected, unnatural, or occurred without medical supervision, which I think must be kind of a no medical supervision, right?
Well, that would be someone found dead at home, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
See, he's got all the answers. That's why I'm so excited to have him on. Determining cause and manner, establishing how, manner, and why the cause a person died, such as homicide, suicide, accident, natural, or unknown. It has to be one of those five, right?
Yes, for our office, correct. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Positively identifying the deceased and notifying the next of kin. I do remember, I was just reminding Chris that there was a case several years ago. I think I was still with the Journal-Gazette, where there was a lady who was killed in her hotel room at the Regency Inn. It was her boyfriend, and he was found guilty of that, or he took a plea deal. I don't remember what, but it took so long because she was from Las Vegas. And so every time I'd call you guys or write an email, hey, what's going on? Mm-hmm. And he was honest about it, and I was able to write a story about that, like, hey, if you can't get a hold of the next of kin, what do you do?
What do we do?
Yeah.
It's tough. There's lots of processes we do. First of all, you got to find a next of kin, and that can be really difficult. We have a transient society. We have a lot of estranged families. Mm. So first of all, once we get an identification, who are they, where did they come from, and who is their next of kin can be really tough. And locally, we rely a lot of times on medical records to see HIPAA forms. That helps us a lot. There happens to be a web page out there called truepeoplesearch.com, and that is 90-some% of the time very accurate for us.
Does that cost money if just the average person wants to?
It's free.
It's free? Mm-hmm. Okay, can you say the name of that?
truepeoplesearch.com.
Very good.
It's all one word, truepeoplesearch.com. And you put the person's first and last name in and the town you believe they are living in, okay? And then it'll pull up, it'll give you a month and year of their date of birth, give the current address it's known, it'll give a phone number, and it'll give all their past addresses, it'll give some of their mortgage information, it'll give all their relative information, and if you click on the relative's name, it'll pull the same data up for that person so you can get a phone numbers from it, email addresses. So we use that frequently. Sometimes we have to search obituaries, and searching through those and see who the next of kin is. And now it's getting a little tougher because more and more people don't write obituaries upon death, but we can search back.
Is that true? Really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot of people don't do it. It costs a lot of money to put obituary in a paper. So if you don't go through
a funeral home, there's not going to be one.
Well, you have to go through a funeral home to get a death certificate started.
Oh, okay.
So if you don't pay for it because it's very expensive, then because you're indigent and you're struggling just to pay for the final arrangements for the loved one, then you may not choose to do that, okay?
So in other words, though, if you're through a funeral home, don't they at least list that person?
No.
They don't?
Not necessarily. It's up to the family. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, so.
I did not.
But anyway, there's a lot of methods we use to search. We check VA, Veterans Association Administration, and we just constantly call and search and looking. So once we find out somewhere where they're from, it might be a little easier to find next of kin. We'll call law enforcement and ask them, hey, John Berry, have you ever had John Berry in an investigation? And if so, who, we can see the police side here locally. So I can go in and see who domestics are with or disturbances are with. So there's other people's names and I can start following up on those. But it can be very difficult to find next of kin. And we have a lot of them. I think right now we have 100, I'm going to say 140, it might be more, cremains in our office that we either can't find next of kin or next of kin refused to do anything with that individual and the body was abandoned. And that's currently what we have in our office.
140?
At least, yeah, maybe more.
Are you talking about like in a morgue?
No, in our office on a shelf, cremains.
Cremains, cremated remains.
Cremains.
Can you get DNA off of that? The ashes?
Not the modern crematories. Stuff in the 60s, maybe 70s, yes, because it wasn't as fine-tuned, I guess, as the science is today. And now the temperatures and the abilities of the crematories, you can't get DNA after someone's been cremated.
That's too bad. I should probably change that.
Well, we can't.
What a way to hide something, by getting somebody cremated. And it's like, oh, actually, he was poisoned, and it would have shown if.
In those situations now, do you get a DNA sample from the body before it's cremated?
Yes,
No.
we do. We get DNA samples, and we can't cremate unless they're identified anyways, first of all. Okay, so they have to be identified, and we have to have a cause and manner of death, and then we can cremate. But if during the autopsy, we will collect, blood stain cards of their DNA.
What about the homeless population? Are a lot of those people, were they homeless?
Well, the homeless population is homeless. We get a few of those. We do get a few of those from time to time. And they're a little harder to track down next of kin. And then, in fact, we talk about Spy Creek Doe. That is potentially a homeless person. We don't know yet, but not far from there was a homeless encampment. And so these unhomed individuals congregate to areas throughout the city, and then they get moved maybe by law enforcement and others, but we believe maybe that's where this person may have originated from.
Oh, yeah. So remind us now, that was in March 2026.
Yep.
Everybody was so excited because they thought maybe it was finally Kevin. But tell us what you know now. What is your update on that, if there is one?
I can't say much at this time. We're still waiting for the anthropologist to complete her examination of the body, of the skeletal remains. And until we get her report, there's not much for me to report.
So, but they did find bones, so it doesn't look like it was buried, or should I jump to that conclusion?
No, I don't believe it was buried. I think it was a body that was in the creek.
Wow. Well, please tell us first, and I'll write that story for you.
I'll put out the press release.
All right. And I know you will. Let's see. Evidence collection, securing evidence at the scene and ordering autopsies or toxicology reports, often by hiring a forensic pathologist. And I think I have down here somewhere that you said that it's getting more and more difficult with all the fentanyl-related deaths. What were you saying about that?
What's the exact question then? I wasn't quite sure. You went from evidence of the scene to toxicology.
I know, and I'm looking for it
Okay.
here, and I don't see it right now because, of course, I'm on pressure. So
Sure.
hard. I'll tell you what, we will get to that because I know it's a big one. As far.
We had a couple years ago, fentanyl deaths were really high. It was that way throughout the nation. Fentanyl was easy to get. It was cheap, so people were abusing it. And so we had a lot of fentanyl deaths. They spiked like crazy, and our caseload went way up. I think it happened throughout the nation.
It did. It definitely
Yes.
did.
And then education started, and then Narcan and Noxolone came along. And then like anything else, supply and demand, things change too. So some of it's the Narcan, some of it's the education, some of it's the supply and demand, and it got expensive. The more people wanted it, the more it cost, so then they go back to a cheaper drug. So
And which one was that?
right now, more and more, we're seeing meth deaths again. Methamphetamine is more popular right now. So, I mean, it cycles
Are
around
they shooting it up, or are they taking it in pill form?
any way they can ingest it. I see it.
What would you see as the most common way that
There's no
killing
more
themselves?
common. They just ingesting methamphetamine, whether it's snorting it, eating it, or ingesting.
Oh, they snort it too. Okay,
Yeah.
I didn't know
The
that.
big difference is they're not cooking it.
Yeah.
Because it's so cheap from Mexico.
Yes.
The crystal meth is pure, and they love it, and oh, that's a shame. So yeah, I mean, you said, so what does it take when you go? Let's go into the drug deaths. What are you finding that it's difficult?
I don't think drug deaths are difficult to determine. Typically, you have signs at the scene. You'll see drug paraphernalia, or some of the drug is remaining there and close to the body. A lot of these people have history with law enforcement and other community organizations that they abuse different drugs. So these aren't difficult usually to determine. You know, if you got a 22-year-old and there's a little rolled up dollar bill, white powder next to him, I mean, that's obviously probably going to be a toxicology death of some type. And so those aren't real difficult.
Although what we're trying to emphasize more now is seeing if we can track backwards and prosecute cases for people who supply drugs that result in death.
Right, and that's the tough part.
Oh, it's very tough, but I think we're trying to look at those scenes as more of a crime scene than a medical event. So I think that's one change we're going to see going forward, that there's going to be a greater emphasis by law enforcement, your office and our office, to see if we can connect that up and hold somebody responsible for the death.
And that is a real tough part of it, because the person who consumed the drug, your eyewitness, is deceased. So it makes it really hard for law enforcement to prove that so-and-so gave this individual certain drugs.
Unless there's maybe a camera.
Cameras and witnesses, right?
And phone messages. So again, we're back in the technology area where every phone needs to be downloaded and looked at.
I think there's one county that really has been.
I think Delaware County has been successful and very aggressive in prosecuting.
And what about, I think Marion County has too, even though I know that's not your favorite county.
I know we've had a couple here in Allen County here recently. You know, we had the one that's a lot of cameras and witnesses in the jail.
That's right, and those were
there's
two
another one,
dudes.
But some of the smaller counties have the resources maybe to do it. You got to remember that we probably have 500-600 overdoses at least a year, maybe more. That doesn't mean they're going to die. Okay, but
How
so
many
then
again?
probably 500-600 overdoses.
Yeah, I mean, we were over 1,200
Yeah.
a few years ago.
Right.
Yeah.
So you're adding 1,200 crime scenes.
Which-
So where you're going to get the staff and the personnel
Yeah.
to manage that, and that's a real issue.
Yeah, it is.
Of course, we're looking at more of the deaths, but it just so happens, it's kind of funny that, you know, we have someone from Fort Wayne that came into the U.S. District Attorney's office, and then some contacts have been made there, and our office is starting to have meetings with them, because if they get charged on a federal side of supplying a drug to someone who passed away, then they could be looking at an additional 20 years. So we're working with conversations there through that office too now. So it is a real problem, but it's really hard to get the evidence necessary for conviction.
And when we say treat it as a crime scene, that means you're calling out several police detectives, probably 4 to 6, command staff, prosecutors, representative, if it's death, the coroner or his representative, and the crime scene people from the police department to gather the evidence. And it's like every other crime, you only get one shot at the scene. If you don't pick everything up properly, you can't recreate it.
I think CSI in Fort Wayne is pretty darn good, though.
Oh, it's fantastic. I mean,
Compared to
the
some of
work
the
that has been done and the level of professionalism, if you go back 35 years or so to, we've come a long way.
Oh, yeah. So let's talk about coroner versus medical examiner coroner, usually an elected official who may or may not be a doctor. In Indiana, you do not have to be a doctor or have any medical experience whatsoever to be elected coroner. I talked to one down south. He was one of the southern counties. He was a real hoop. He's a truck driver and just kind of knew everybody in the county. Here, we're not like that. They may appoint a doctor for medical work. I think we do anything else, we need to define what a medico-legal death investigator is, because that's what Chris is.
Well, a medical legal death investigator is someone who's went through some special training. Usually those individuals will come from a background of either medical, whether they're a nurse or whether a paramedic, or they'll come from the law enforcement side, because you have to have both, honestly. I had the law enforcement side, crime scene side, police world, but I had to really learn a lot about the medical world and human physiology, So it's nice to have at least somebody to begin the training that has one of those fields. So they got one side taken care of, the other side they got to study hard. But the state of Indiana then produces a class twice a year where individuals will attend this class to learn about becoming a medical legal death investigator, and they'll learn about the different types of causes and manners of death. It's about 58 hours now, I think, is what they're doing on the initial, and they have to pass a test. And then after the written test, then they have to go into an externship. And the externship then is they have to start making a bunch of scenes and produce quality investigations from those scenes and go to the autopsies. They have to draw toxicologies. And there's a series of things they have to process through, and then that has to be graded by their peers. And if they pass that, then they become what you would consider a medical legal death investigator.
Right, that's a medico-legal.
Yeah, medico-legal investigator in the state of Indiana.
58 hours, is that all in one go, or?
Typically, it's kind of odd. Sometimes they'll do 2 weekends, 2 long weekends, like a Wednesday through Sunday. 2 of those, or they'll do a whole week. More and more they break it up, so they'll do 1 weekend, and then 2 weeks later they'll do the second weekend.
Do they have materials you could study for that?
Yes, they get a lot of handouts, and then there's a lot of presenters. They see a lot of PowerPoint presentations, but it's sometimes I think it gets a little hard on them to sit there and look at PowerPoint after PowerPoint, but you got to get the information to them. You're not trying to fail them. You want them to be successful, So you got to almost like spoon feed them sometimes the information, but you want them to get the information so they can be good investigators and have success.
Oh, that's it. I'm glad to hear that they have that. I wanted to ask something before we go into your career. What about environmental deaths? And I'm talking about contamination, poisoning, extensive use of pesticides.
You asking me? I have not had any of those kind of deaths that I know of, pesticides. I cannot think of anything of that nature at this time.
But nobody who, like in good old Rome, remember, they would poison they poison the people they didn't like, not necessarily their enemies, but if you ever watch Caligula, you find out that, and there was another one too that was fabulous. I can't remember the actor. It was BBC, of course. And, so what did they drink? The hemlock.
Yes, and that is an issue for us. People, maybe there's a misnomer thinking that when we do a toxicology, we're testing for everything in the world, and we don't. We have a panel of drugs that we're testing for. When it comes to poisons or toxins as such, we have to know what it is to test for it. So if I don't know it, there's no way for me to test for every toxin and drug or chemical in the world. So we have to have investigative work closely with the police, work closely with families, and get a chemical that we can test for. Otherwise, so, in the old days, I can't say old days, I guess, maybe it's only been 10 or 15 years ago, antifreeze was used frequently, but it was easy because it was sweet tasting and you could mix it with somebody's Mountain Dew. They've changed the chemical makeup of
What? You had that?
Yeah.
You had deaths that were people they killed people with antifreeze?
Yep. Do you remember working any of those?
I didn't work any of them, but I remember having some.
But then they make it really bitter, so it's not as easy to use that. But yes, you have to know what to test for, or else we're never going to know or see it.
But when these people are stretched out and they're turning certain colors or whatever, does it make you think like, well, wait a minute, this person is dead, but I don't see any wounds on him. I don't see any trace of, shooting up heroin 10, 15 years ago or pills lying about.
Mm-hmm. Well, first of all, when someone passes, they begin immediate decomposition. So people begin to turn colors, and it starts with the lower right quadrant of starting to turn a green, but there's also lividity. So your blood is settling, and your blood settles to the lowest areas according how your body is positioned, and so you start to turn colors, period, anyways, at death. So that doesn't necessarily mean there's a drug on board. Okay. There are a couple drugs in the world or toxins that you might see that could cause certain coloration, but just by simply looking at a body wouldn't tell you there's a toxin involved.
So these antifreeze deaths, I do want to go back to this. Okay. How could you tell that they were antifreeze deaths?
Again, through law enforcement investigative, they go to the house and there's 5 empty gallons of antifreeze sitting there. Or sometimes a person, if the person that was being poisoned is being poisoned slowly, they'll have a lot of symptomology and they start going to the doctor a lot, and the doctors through elimination at the hospitals will test for this. It's not that, not that, not that, not that, and they'll just keep going through it, and then some point, they'll test for that particular chemical and find it's in his liver or something like that, or his kidneys, and so then we know that way too. So sometimes it's a total investigative package that you get, the total picture.
Well, all I can say is, Chris, I'm glad you caught him, because that's a horrible way to kill somebody. Now, let's talk about your career. You've been in the coroner's office as long as I can remember, but I know you were with the Fort Wayne Police Department, because I can remember I was researching a case from, I think, 1998, and at that point, I believe you were CSI.
Okay, I would have been. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay. So when did you come? Where are you from originally?
I'm from Salina, Ohio, and I started as a reserve deputy with the Mercer County Sheriff Department in Mercer County in Salina. And then shortly after that, I took a police officer position in Mendon, Ohio, a few years there, and I transferred over to Rockford, Ohio, and worked there a few years. And I lateraled here in December of '90. So I think December 17th, 1990, I came here and I went to the streets, and I worked the streets for about 5 years.
What quadrant were you working?
Mostly south, southeast, southwest areas. Back then we didn't have quadrants.
What shift?
Well, my training was all shifts, but I ended up on second shift primarily. And again, we didn't have quadrants, we had districts, so District 6, District 7, typically, once in a while 8 or 9. But at any rate, that's where I was for 5 years, and then in January of '95, I went to crime scene.
Really, that quickly? So, but we all want to know why you came to Fort Wayne.
My wife, she was working at the old Lutheran down on Fairfield Avenue, and the hour and 20-minute drive after a second shift or late wee hours in the morning was a lot for her, and the roads, of course, US 33 in the winter is not a nice road, and she wanted to move to Fort Wayne so we didn't have to travel so much to work. So that's why I lateraled to Fort Wayne.
Was Fort Wayne the big city to you guys at that point?
Yeah, it was a bigger city. We looked at Dayton. She had an opportunity to go to Dayton, too, for her career. And she was offered jobs there, but she chose Fort Wayne.
So you could have kept a Buckeye,
Could have stayed a Crazy Nut. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Well, we're glad you came here, because you're just an expert in all this. Did you always want to work in the coroner's office? Was that your dream?
Never was. I knew because of my family history, my father, my uncle, and first cousins were police officers, and I knew that I was probably going to become a police officer even in high school early on. And so I knew I wanted to do law enforcement, and then early on I really liked photography. I took photography in high school, but then the fingerprint world was pretty interesting to me. So I knew then I wanted to do the crime scene gig as such. But
I wonder why you did that. Were any of those relatives you just mentioned, were they in crime scene?
no.
Was there a TV show that kind of like hit?
There was nothing in that time period about CSI. That didn't even exist at that time.
Quincy was probably the only TV
Quincy
show.
Jones, I think it would have been closest, yeah. But there wasn't
Did you watch it?
Oh yeah, I watched Quincy all the time when I was a kid. Yeah. So, but that's how I got to Fort Wayne, and then I had an interest in crime scene, and then I worked in crime scene for 21 years, and about 2004, I think, is when late Dick Alfeld, he was the chief investigator in my seat where I'm at now, and he invited me into the office, and I went to the training to become a deputy coroner, and I was a volunteer for years. I was a volunteer for the Allen County Coroner's Office and a full-time police officer with the city of Fort Wayne. And then I guess it was 2016, Michael Burris, he was also a police officer. He was one of my original training officers. He then moved to crime scene. He became a sergeant in crime scene. I was in crime scene. He was my sergeant. He retired and he took Dick's job.
Okay.
So Mike was in the chief's seat at the Allen County Coroner's Office, and then he come to me and said that Patty Kite was going to retire, and that I want her full-time position in the coroner's office. So that would have been July of 2016. I would have retired from the city on one day, and the next day I walked over and started in the Allen
Now,
County.
2016 is when I became a cops reporter, so I remember dealing with you more than anybody. You must have been putting out all the press releases. Well, no, Mike too.
Yeah.
Mike too. But I feel like more press releases came from you. So I think what we should do is take it step by step. Let's say you get a call that there's a homicide or somebody who's probably going to die or a suspicious death. Do you go out for any other calls? I don't know what I mean by that exactly.
Let's start with the homicide.
Okay, let's start with
So there's a couple scenarios.
Okay.
If someone dies of unnatural process, okay, whether it's a suicide or it's a homicide, or maybe if it's an accidental, sometimes we go out on those, then we'll go to the scene if there's a deceased at the scene.
Okay. And the police have been called.
Typically they've
And
been
they
called.
tell you to come.
Typically, yes.
You're on the page.
Again, it depends on the scenario. Okay, so let's say it is a homicide. It's 2 a.m. Yes, we're going to get paged and phone called. Okay, because law enforcement's going to be on scene, and we have a deceased at the scene. Then we're going to leave our home and go to the scene. Yes. If they transport the individual and they transport him to a hospital, then we don't go to the scene, okay? Because there's no decedent there, okay? So then we'll work with the hospitals and at that point, and the nurses staff.
They must know you pretty well over at all those hospitals.
They pretty much know us. Yeah, the chaplains.
Hi,
the
Chris.
chaplains are a good mediator between everybody, and between the family and the staff for the hospital and the coroner's office. There's some great people there, obviously, but so that's kind of the scenario. So if it is a homicide and a deceased at home, we're going to go to the scene. And our county is maybe unique throughout the state, but we have a really good relationship with everybody. We've tried to promote that because I can't be successful without the prosecutor, and I can't be successful without the police department.
Right.
I can't do it all in our office. So we rely and relinquish the crime scene responsibilities to the local law enforcement here in our county. So if it's in this city, Fort Wayne PD crime scene has control of that scene. Of course, it's mine and it's my body, but I relinquish it to him because I don't have all the staff that need be to do the laser sketching, to do the photography, to do the video, to collect all the evidence. I don't have a property room. I don't have an evidence place for continuity purposes. So we rely heavily on our local law enforcement to be a team with us. And so I kind of stand out. I gather a lot of information. I talk to the lead detective. If there's family, the first responding officer, the lead crime scene tech, I'll talk to all those people. We'll have to determine if we need a warrant. For one, is there an expectation of privacy? So we may need a warrant. Will we get a consent? Or is it an an outdoor scene and the decedent's laying outside. So these are things we have to consider up front, and then I wait for crime scene to do their job, get their initial documentation done, get their the obvious evidence documented and identified, and then I'll come in and follow them with my photographs. And then when they're ready, after their documentation's done, they've sketched the body in, then I will go and get the body ready to be transported from the scene.
Okay, and how does that happen?
Well, we have to put a tag on the toe, and it has some demographics of the individual, location, and date and time of death. With other people's help. After I've done document it with photography as well, we'll place the body within a body bag, and that body bag is sealed, and then it's got another tag that goes on the outside with some of the very same similar information about the person's name, address, date and time of death. And we have worked with a third-party removal service called Leakty Funeral Home out of Bern, and they will come to the scene for us.
They come all the way up from Bern?
They have people here that live in town that have vehicles, but he contracts with them. We contract with him, and they come to the scene, and we'll stand by until they arrive, and then we follow the body with the funeral home to the cooler because it's a piece of evidence. We've got to maintain continuity, and we'll follow it to the forensic center and secure it for autopsy.
Now, where is our forensic center?
Currently, it's in the Lutheran Downtown Hospital.
Wow. Has it always been there?
Well, since Lutheran Downtown existed, prior to that was St. Joe Hospital, and it was in St. Joe Hospital.
But when they knocked St. Joe down and they were rebuilding for Lutheran Downtown, then where did the bodies go?
Well, they built new Lutheran, before they tore down old St. Joe.
Yes.
That's right.
Yeah.
I've got pictures. I should have remembered that. Sorry.
That's all right.
Will it be moved at all?
Well, we don't own it, so I don't know. I mean, that's up to Lutheran. We've investigating the possibility of a forensic center, but you know that's way down the road.
Here in Allen County.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, to see if we can have our own, but you know we were looking at it, and then SB1 came along, so I'm not sure. I think things have maybe slowed a little bit, but the county commissioners are always looking to better plan for the future, so it's least cost effective for the citizens of Allen County. And the commissioners have been looking at moving different agencies to another location and try, because I think currently...
Would that be Meyer Road?
It's a possibility. I'm not certain if they've decided on that, but there are many buildings they own, and so they'd love to get it to one building.
Really?
And,
well, if you say they'd love to get it to one building, what exactly are you talking about?
Well, I think they've got some buildings they're always going to have. I mean, the jail is I think there's some thinking about trying to get a lot of county services out on that campus.
Okay.
But clearly, you got one building called the courthouse. You got one building called Rousseau. There's going to be a downtown presence. There's going to be a presence out there. But I'm not sure on this one, but the forensic center, a lot of other counties utilize that as well, don't they?
To finish up on the buildings, like I think the health department might be in 4 or 5 buildings, and we'd love to get them to one.
Right.
You know, why have HVAC systems you're paying for in all those other buildings? So that's kind of where I was going with that.
I think the health department is the first department that will be moving out there. I think.
I don't think so.
Oh, really? Okay.
I don't know.
I think there were plans at one point. I think community corrections is in dire need.
Yes.
I mean, their building has some physical defects and they've outgrown it by far. So.
That'll make a nice apartment townhouse building. That's an aside that's not necessary. Keep going.
So the forensic center, as Mike said, he is correct that there's about 12 or 13 counties that use that forensic center. It's very regional for this.
When you say forensic center, where is it right now?
The Allen County Forensic, we call it the Northeast Indiana Forensic Center, and that is in Lutheran Hospital downtown here.
Oh, it is?
Van Buren. Yep.
Oh, okay.
Yep. And and when we say forensic center, that is a morgue to store decedents and then a dual autopsy suite with some.
I was going to say, is that where all the autopsies take place? That must be a lot of square footage over there if all these counties are using them.
No, it's pretty small.
Oh, is it really? Okay.
Yeah. And it's a problem because the cooler is only so big, so then it gets full soon, and so then we have to move decedents because it's not big enough.
So where do they get?
Well, we like families to take the time they need as a family to decide on what funeral home they want to use, okay? But as we have a long weekend or for some reason it got really busy, sometimes we have to make calls to these families and ask them if they could expedite their decision just a little quicker so that we can release them to funeral homes.
Well, that's where they go. See, I'll bet you all are listening to this and you had no idea, because I didn't either. And I was a police reporter for several years there. I was going to ask you, was there ever a really, really disturbing scene? And do you ever have trouble getting to sleep at night? Because you see a lot of grisly, you see a lot of death, you see a lot of stuff that, you know, those of us, I mean, there's a lot of us who couldn't take that day in and day out.
Yeah. Yes, I think from my understanding and in being in the law enforcement world, I think your very first real major traumatic event, and anybody in public service, whether it's a paramedic or fire or EMS and police, you remember that first one like the back of your hand by forever. I do. I remember mine.
Can you say what it was?
Yeah, it was a farming incident over in Mercer County. And it's a sad story because he got a tractor stuck in a field. He went to get his big tractor because he was in a hurry because his son was coming home so they could go squirrel hunting. Okay, and it was on Halloween. And he bypassed some safety mechanisms when he tried to jumpstart the big tractor, and ended up pinning him down, and he ended up dying from his injuries. So I remember that one like the back of my hand. And then as you move on through your career, I think us police officers, crime scene techs, coroners, deputy coroners, we get pretty calloused to death, and our feelings are maybe numb, you would say. And so we have to be able to do the job. And you can't sit there and allow emotions to get in the way of doing your job. And so I think somehow all of us have somehow compartmentalized that to a way that allows us to continue to do our work, because we have to get it done and get it done right. And, you know, my father once said, you're not going to be able to do that job very long. And here I am, you know, I'm 41 years into this kind of career. And so at what
that was
point,
from his experience as a
maybe, you know, I don't know. I didn't ask, didn't delve into it. So the question is, when will I have enough? I don't know. But
if you've been in it 41 years and you graduated from high school, just adding it up, well, you might have a few more years and then you can retire. Are you actually looking forward to that?
I don't know. I'm enjoying what I'm doing. You know, I'm healthy. I enjoy what I'm doing. So yeah, and I finally, you know, in some ways I got a position that it's like what I was working for, you know. And my wife is in the same exact scenario with her career. So we both have met in the 60s, our 8 years of 60 years of age. We've met the spots we wanted to be in our careers. But back to whether things bother you.
She's a nurse.
No, she's a medical legal, or I'm sorry, she's a, she is a medical technologist, but she is in the company that owns Lutheran CHS out of Franklin, Tennessee. She works for them, and she is in quality control management of 186 hospital systems in the country. That's what she does. But so back to things that might bother you, though. I think throughout my career, there's different ones, okay, for a moment. And I think the biggest thing was, and I think I've heard this from others, is that if you had a 5-year-old death and your child was 5 years old, that kind of stuck to you just for a little bit. And then he was 8, and you had an 8-year-old, and he was 10, you had a 10-year-old death. So I think those plateaus of different ages that were the same age as maybe your children kind of bother you sometimes. And then there are some cases that you talked about sleep. I'll be honest, when my head hits the pillow, within a minute or two, I'm out, always.
Boy, you're lucky.
But there are cases that have over the years that kept you awake, thinking about what if I did this or what if I do that, you know, and stuff. So there are those cases.
But you were talking about April Tinsley, and that was you were waking up in the middle of the night. Tell us about that.
Well, just April Tinsley was a very complicated case, and there was a lot of agencies, were involved in that case. And so at one point, and I don't remember, it was 2006 or 8, I can't remember the year, but I was asked to take the evidence side of that and get it straight, because state police had evidence, the Allen County Sheriff Department had evidence, Fort Wayne Police Department had evidence, and of course she died, or she was found and pronounced deceased in another county.
That was Spencerville.
So DeKalb County.
Oh, DeKalb, okay.
Yeah, so it was very complicated, and so they wanted to get that all under control into one nest egg, I guess you would say, and then develop suspects. And so our suspect list got to be 750 or 800 people, and so it was really a complicated case. But as time moved through that case, if
And
we
did
had
you get frustrated a lot in that case?
all the time,
Yeah.
because you get somebody that looked really good, and as you worked through it and did the DNA test, it wasn't them, know. And that happened several times through that investigation. But so it got to a point where it was very manageable once you got all the evidence in place and made sure all the testing was done, and then you got your list of suspects, and it was just a policy in this investigation that every male name that popped up, you collected a buccal swab from.
Oh my God.
So if it was a suspect or a person's name that popped up that was in the city of Fort Wayne, I worked with the city detectives. It was outside the city limits, but in the county, I worked with the county detectives. And then if it was outside our county, then we had an individual for the state police that worked them in the state. And if it was outside the state, then we used U.S. Marshals primarily to track those people down. So it got to be a really well-organized machine to get through the suspect list. But of course,
breakthrough.
But the breakthrough, of course, came with a genealogy study.
Whose idea was that?
I believe that was Brian Martin, I believe.
Yeah,
I
I
believe.
think it was too.
Yeah.
And so did he approach you and say, what did he say?
I think that was in 2018, and I might have been retired from the city. Okay. So it was after I
But
left.
you were with the
Allen
coroner's
County
office.
Coroner's office. So it wasn't my case anymore at that point. But because of the working relationship, and he knew the time and effort I put in that case, he kept me informed on what was going on, but I didn't have any say in it at that point.
So I think what he did was because there was a great rape kit that had been saved, I'm pretty sure this is the way it went down, they were able to get the DNA of the killer as well, right?
Yeah, we had a partial profile for many years. There's a lot of details in this investigation I can't talk of, and then...
Oh, you still can't talk about them?
No, it should not.
Okay.
And but we had a partial profile, and that was a real issue through that investigation. And there was different resistant walls that you run into in every major investigation. I don't care what it is. You get brick walls thrown up at you. So we had a few for a while. And then at some point, somebody took it on their own to do another test of that kit and got a full profile. And then at that point, yes, it was definitely solvable, and it became solved.
And DNA analysis changed from 1988 to
Right.
2000.
And 10 or whatever it was, yeah.
Oh, it was that C.C. Moore.
Yeah, yep, C.C. Moore. And she'd been doing that for a long time, as you know, but she wouldn't do it for law enforcement side because she wasn't sure of the legalities. If someone voluntarily puts their DNA into a database, she wasn't sure if the police were allowed to do that. But then they started putting disclaimers out there on all those databases for everybody who ever put their DNA in there that, hey, police are going to be allowed to start searching this database, so you know.
That's good.
And so then I think that's when that started happening, and we're the second case she worked then.
Were there any national cases where you wish you were on them because you...
No.
No. You're happy here. That's good.
Well, I just know.
I'm trying to remember the first case she did.
It was a California case. Was it the Green Killer?
Oh, I think, I think you're,
What do they call that killer?
I want to say Green River.
Green River Killer, I think, is the first one she ever did. And then ours was second. And we were told too, at least I was told by Brian, that, hey, we're hoping to get it maybe to a second, third, fourth, fifth cousin, you know. And then C.C. Moore, in that particular event, she was able to get it clear down to 3 brothers. I mean, that was just amazing work on her part.
I actually talked to his brother, went out that for the Journal Gazette, and it was a sad story all around. Let's
It
just
is.
put it that way.
I was in the room watching the interviews live when they brought him in.
Ooh.
And we didn't know what he was going to do.
Yeah.
And when he admitted, it was like, we got it. It's done.
Yeah.
Finally.
You feel like crying almost, right? I mean,
I was, yeah.
so many years, all the emotions and everything that came forward, and then he taunted everybody with the remember scrawling on the barn and honestly, you know, from talking to his brother, I wasn't even sure that he was intelligent enough to do that kind of stuff. I mean, it was, like I said, it was a sad case all around. Let's talk about television shows, because you have an experience as a police officer in CSI and as an investigative coroner. Does any television show get it right?
Nope. I think the biggest CSI effect, though, to us is people see that on TV, so they think it is real. So when you go to court to testify, and that's where it's hard for his office to overcome some of those expectations, that you can get this fingerprint and you put it in a computer in 20 seconds, it shows the person's name and face and all this. And that's not the way APHIS works, you know, even. And so it is a lot of misnomers that are out there. And so then the state of Indiana changed the law where the jury's allowed to ask you questions. And so then that's even worse, and that was during that CSI effect. So they're asking these questions of me on the stand, and you know they're asking it because they've seen it on TV, you know, and it's just not real. But
Is that what, I mean, when you have to answer, you say, no, you would see that on TV, but that's not how the way it works here? I mean, are you allowed to go into detail?
Well, the process, some of it is the timing that they see.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, on TV, they get the piece of evidence and they get a result on it. It seemingly is within an hour.
Yeah.
And usually we're sending stuff out to a different lab to be analyzed. If we get it back in 6 to 8 weeks, that's great.
Yeah, that's good.
And I think that's where the public and the CSI, and because TV, you know, they write the scripts to make it work.
Yeah.
In and out.
We're not following
Actually, less with all the ads.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have a script. This is real life.
I know.
Yeah.
That's right. And I was just asking on Hulu and Netflix, but I think you're just pretty fed up with the whole thing and you don't bother with them anymore.
My life is pretty busy,
Yes.
my wife and I really don't get a lot of TV watching done. And then when I do, I'm watching sports. I'm watching something more fun.
Okay, so let's talk about it. Are you a diehard Buckeye?
Yeah, I am definitely Ohio State fan. True and true.
Good. That's where my
Cubs
grandpa.
fan. I used to be a Reds, but then our son was born in '95, and he decided he wanted to go to Cubs, and we've kind of been with Cubs since then. So,
Isn't it funny how your kids help you make decisions?
yeah.
You know?
And then he ended up going to Ohio State for his veterinarian medicine, so we stayed with Ohio State.
Oh, okay. So where's he a vet now?
Well, he's a veterinarian, but he's doing a residency in Ottawa, Canada.
Is he going to move to Canada?
I don't think he's permanently going to move there, no.
Oh, okay. That's good.
The physician he wanted to work with is there. He'd met that physician in Wisconsin University, and that physician was doing academia at the time, obviously, and then he left to start his own practice, and Matthew went there to do his residency.
Nice. Ottawa, Canada. That's a beautiful city.
Yeah.
Really? And does he like to ice skate?
Yeah.
Leduc Canal?
Yeah.
Yeah. My brother was up there a couple of years ago.
I
don't like the
They
cold.
skate that all the time. Yeah, we were up there in January, and I think it was, I can't remember, it was 20 below.
Yeah.
We're out there skating on that river.
It's nothing to these people. It's amazing. No wonder they're such good hockey players. So,
I
what would you,
believe US won.
oh,
Yes. US one. Yeah.
you would have to bring that up. Oh, Canada. No, I'm just kidding. What would you like people to know about the coroner's office? What are some of the most misunderstood things about the coroner's office?
Well, I want people to know that we're there to help everyone, the living, of course, and we're there to speak for the dead, but we're there to assist the living. And we have great staff, and you can call us at any time for anything. And all of our staff, if we can't answer it or it's not the right place to call, we'll make sure we get you a contact somewhere so you just know and hang up. That's not us, okay? We do care and have compassion for people. Some of the missed things, I think everybody thinks that everyone who dies is a coroner's case.
Right.
And that's not true. All natural deaths can be signed by a physician and should be signed by their primary care physician or their cardiologist or maybe an oncologist. It just depends on what's going on with that person. And that's where those cases will go, and that's who will sign the death certificate, that physician. We get some naturals. We'll get some natural death if they haven't seen a doctor in a year, or let's say they're from Ohio and they come here and they pass away in our county. Ohio doctors can't sign our death certificates. So we'll catch some naturals, okay, we do. They also need to understand that if it is a coroner's case, we don't do autopsies on all cases, okay? Only the reason
I think a lot of people think that, go ahead with the death rate in Allen County too.
The Allen County, we don't do autopsies unless we don't know what the cause and manner is, okay? If I can't determine it from the scene, let's say it's a suicide, and I can't determine it, I should be able to in most suicides, then we don't need to do an autopsy, if someone's died due to asphyxia. But
what about traffic accidents?
In traffic accidents, a lot of times will autopsy, but not always. If it's a single vehicle crash, you crash your car into a tree and there doesn't appear to be anybody else involved, we don't need to do an autopsy on that case because we know it's going to be blunt force impact type injuries, the sudden stop, sudden impact.
And it must be kind of obvious when you're looking at the person too, possibly?
Yes. Yeah. The totality of the circumstances of your investigation.
So were you at Samaya Barker's death when she was in the red Silverado at Lafayette, McKinney, and Clinton Streets? It was Easter morning 5 years ago, and her mother said when she was in that truck, she looked like she was sleeping. She looked like an angel. She was only 17 years old, but they had been hit and they were forced into a telephone pole or something like that. I don't know if you were there at that one because we just went to the sentencing for that one.
I don't believe I was there. And then back to crashes, though, where you do autopsies or not, would be.
But if in your situation where we've prosecuted somebody, there may very well have been, if say a drunk driving accident and the other driver is arrested or is suspicious, is looked at as a suspicion of drunk driving, they would probably do an autopsy then.
Anytime someone's actions causes your death, we're going to do an autopsy more than likely, okay? So in these fatal crashes, again, if it's a single vehicle by yourself, no. But if you run a stop sign and you hit somebody in the driver's door and it took their life, then we're going to do that autopsy on that victim because they were not at fault in the crash, okay? They did nothing wrong. So, again, it comes back to if your actions cause someone else's death, and we're going to.
And that's very important in the investigation to get you on board and the police on board and the prosecutor.
It could be criminal charges.
And another area is kids.
Yep, children.
That if children under, I think, what's the age, under 3, that you will do an autopsy generally on children?
Well, with 14 or under, a lot of times we're doing autopsies unless there's a significant medical history, okay? But we look at all 17 and under cases, period. But if there is a significant medical history, then no. But anything else, even a fatal crash of a 17-year-old, we're going to do an autopsy on, okay?
That's actually reassuring to me. Let's talk about case Scarpetta, just because I think that's an interesting story. We did establish that the author of those, very interesting. I did read one of her books. It's Patricia Cornwell, I think we said, Cornwall or something like that. But you have a ring, and when you first showed us the ring, you said it was case Scarpetta. Well, that's her main detective. So what's the story behind that?
The ring?
Yeah.
I went to the National Forensic Academy in 2004, and that's 10 weeks that you spend there, and you cover every forensic field. So you start at the very beginning of any one forensic field, whether it's DNA or whether it's fingerprints. You start from the beginning of time and learn through it. And then each week as it progresses, you will get crime scenes to process, and you have to do presentations to the class. And so it's a very
Intense.
encompassing of the forensic world. And it's 10 weeks, and you graduate from it. So, but part of that graduation process is Patricia Cornwell's involved at that time. At least I was a 10th class. I think they're up to 30-some now. But she would purchase a ring for all the graduates that went through the Forensic Academy.
Is it gold?
Yeah, it's 16 karat or whatever, 14
Well, that's
karat.
nice.
I think you had a choice.
What does it have on the front of it? Is that the Hippocratic? You know?
No, it has, this is at the University of Tennessee, so it has their emblem on it, and it has a skull and a fingerprint, and I believe it weights a scale.
Skull and bones. So anyway, I'm just trying. Oh, I don't know. Is there any music? I usually ask people, like when you get in your car and it's like, okay, that was the worst scene. You like, I don't know, put on Mozart, but you know, country and western.
I'm a country listener primarily.
Who's your favorite?
Luke Combs.
He's good. I liked that when he did that one Tracy Chapman song.
Yeah.
That was really cool.
But I listen to a lot of genre. I don't know. I guess I was in music too. I played trumpet. I played sousaphone. I played French horn. So, and I sang in a choir at church. So, I'm singing a lot of or listening to a lot of different types of music. But country is probably my most favorite. But I love the '80s music. Of course
What do you want to say? What church you sing?
I go to St. Matthew's Lutheran Church on Goshen Road.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So you're in the choir too?
Yes, I have to be. My wife's the music director.
Oh, I have to check that out.
But yeah, she minored in music at Capital University in Columbus, Ohio.
See, this is a little known fact we knew about our deputy coroner, who's also the medico-legal investigator. We get all that right. All right, guys, have I left anything out? Because this has really been fascinating to me, too. And here I was, a cops reporter for several years, and then they also put me in court, so I've seen autopsies and everything else, and I still learned a whole bunch. So is there something that I left out that you want everybody to know? Mike, Chris?
Mike?
I think you referenced this, that the partnership, and we have been, I think, very blessed as a community. Dr. Brandberger has been great to work with over the years. We haven't always had medical doctors, but Dr. O'Shaughnessy was dental, but he had a great interest in looking for bones and identifying things. He did a lot of work with the anthropology department. So we've really had, I can think of one exception way back when a coroner brought a dog to a crime scene. Oh. And the dog licked up some blood that, not exactly what you want. But
was there any left?
Yes, there was.
All right. Thank goodness.
And what you've said about, remembering and seeing that, if you weren't a medical person and you become a police officer or a deputy prosecutor, you're going to see these things that they didn't tell you anything about in school. Police officers go into some horrendous scenes.
Absolutely.
Probably some of the fatal crashes, if you talk about things that will stick with you. It's just really tough. And you do get kind of callous to this, but I also agree with you. I remember the first scene I went to that was a murder-suicide, and the husband had killed the wife, but both of their heads were like ballooned. They almost looked like cartoon characters, and I've carried that with me for, 40-some years.
Wow.
And then there are other ones that a guy once, two brothers were shot, and one of them was on the floor, and there really wasn't much blood. And this is kind of the gallows humor that we get into.
Yeah.
One of the officers said, "Hey, come here. You got to come downstairs with me." And the blood had all dripped around him, creating an outline of a body down in the basement.
Oh my gosh. Well, you'll see like B-roll that the TV stations take. They go to a scene, and all the cops are kind of going around laughing, you know, and just like it's a little bit jarring.
Well, it's
and
one of those,
so I see what you're saying. Okay.
well, you got to realize that we're frequently at those crime scenes.
Yeah.
You're out there for an hour, 2 hours, whatever. I mean, there have been times 4 hours because you're letting crime scene do the work before. It's very limited who goes in there first. And because you want to get all of that preserved. You want the video, you want the photographs taken, you want the samples taken. And some scenes are horribly bloody. Some scenes aren't. But it's a tough job for everybody involved, but there is a lot of gallows humor that kind of...
Well, you were at the Marcus Dansby one, the whole...
And that's probably the most blood I've seen at a scene.
Yeah.
And, you know...
And then there's other conversations going on, because like you said, you're waiting 2, 3... Sometimes in the past, not so much anymore, it would take over 2 hours to get a warrant. And then you still got the scene processing. So officers and other investigators are out, and they're just having other conversations. But
right.
You know, when people see it on TV, they see it the moment. You know, they're at a homicide scene, you know, and not knowing that the officer's been there 3 hours, and they're just having general conversations about other things.
Exactly,
okay?
yeah.
And it's not being disrespectful. It's just having a conversation. But when somebody sees it on TV, then it could feel or represent disrespect towards the decedent and the family of that victim, but it's not meant to be that way.
Yeah, I think most of them, they'll capture the B-roll where they're standing around discussing, you know. So, but every once in a while.
No, the worst thing I did that way, I think, was a child had died, and it was the Sunday afternoon of the Masters. And a detective had a little 5-inch black and white TV in his car, and it was I think the 2005 Masters when Tiger Woods hit on number 16 a chip that goes up and then comes down and hangs on the edge of the cup and falls. And both the detective and I won't name him, kind of jumped up and said, "I can't believe it."
Yeah.
And then looking around and saying,
Okay.
I hope there wasn't a camera on me for that.
Yeah, I know, really.
Yep. I think we've all been there.
Or call up the TV station and say, wait a minute, you know. So, yeah, take the last word before. Well, actually, Mike has a rant, but if you want to have the last word on this.
Just know that our investigators are great investigators. We have 4 full-time paid in the office, plus the coroner. We have an administrative secretary. And then we have 4 part-time paid. So we're on call every 8th day. And tonight's my call. So if there's any scenes, I'll be out at the scenes tonight. And then I'll come in and work my shift during the day. And we have some volunteers too. And if there are people that are interested into getting into medical legal death investigation, please send me an email. You can find my email on our webpage. Send me your resume and transcripts and things, and we'll do interviews. We're always looking for good volunteers. Again, it really helps if you have one of these fields, you know, medical or law enforcement side. But that we rotate through an 8-day, so every 8th day with somebody, I'm on call. Or
so what would a volunteer do?
They will help take call.
Oh, okay.
And the idea is that when we end up with a mass fatality, that we have a proper staffing, at least to try to control it for the first 72 hours to get things up and running until we get other resources here. So with having, 5 hospitals, we could have autopsies going on in all 5 hospitals, but we would need a crime scene detective and then a coroner representative. And so these volunteers can help with situations like that, or they help us out when I need to take a vacation day and I'm off. They come in and fill in for us. So know that we have try to have 12 to 15 at least. We love to have more staff members. But and then when we do have a paid position, know that we select from our volunteers and bring them in because we've seen their work. We know what they're capable of.
I mean, excuse me, if you're a volunteer, about how many hours would that entail? Like, let's say a month.
Well, they have to go through the initial training like everybody else. That's the first 6 months is a lot of consumption of their time. It is. But then we just ask for 30 hours a year.
I think that there will be a lot of people who would be interested in that. And we could always, like, have them talk to us, too. It'd be a fun story to do. Why did you do this? What are you doing, you know? Yeah, because everybody's fascinated by this. Look at all the true crime shows now. Look at all the CSI. I mean, you know, you can't turn on the TV without seeing something on there. Crime is really a big seller. So anyway, I think we're ready for Mike.
I will connect this to the coroner's office. Probably one of the most important things, if not the most important, is they identify the remains. And I think for all systems, we need to be accurate in what we do. They had the worst probably outcome, and this was 15, 20 years ago in central Indiana. They had a car crash on I-69 where several college students were hurt as well as killed. They identified the dead. There was one girl who was in a coma with facial injuries. I think she was taken up to a hospital in Michigan, and was in this coma for 6-8 weeks, quite an extended period. Another girl was buried, and the family went through the grief process of losing their child. When the girl came out of the coma and could speak, they realized that they had mixed up the girls. So the parents who had been at the hospital side for 6 weeks, it wasn't their daughter.
They couldn't tell because it was disfiguring?
Yeah, their daughter was dead.
Okay.
And I am sure that is something at every coroner's training event they go through and say, this is the standard that you never want to, or the position you never want to be in, to misidentify. And I think with us across law enforcement, it's real easy to jump into a scene and assume something before you have all the facts. And Chris can tell you, we could all count so many times when the things we thought initially were absolutely wrong.
Yep.
And so sometimes that's why we go so friggin' slow. And I know it annoys victims' families. It annoys the media, that's for sure. They want to have everything yesterday.
Pushy people.
But we do that to get it right. And my rant kind of goes to what, this gets political, but the Democratic chairman locally accused Senior Judge Wendy Davis of misconduct when she had checked with that about hosting not really a fundraiser, but a meet and greet. And she cleared that with the courts. And I think she'll be vindicated on this. And people need to recognize, do your homework before you start making allegations against somebody. The standards that we hold in criminal investigations are not a bad groundwork or guideline for if you're going to make accusations publicly.
Yep.
Oh, I think that the TV station I watched, which was Wayne, my old station, I thought they did a good job of digging up what was her right to. I don't think she actually hosted it. She was like a co-host at another woman's house. And I believe that the reporter at Wayne did a good job of showing both sides of it. So.
well, there shouldn't have been any sides to it.
Have you called up the Democrat Party yet?
No.
I think Steve Shine probably had a talk with them. So, well, thank you, Mike. Appreciate that you wanted to do that on the podcast. So with that, unless we have some other matters to discuss, I think we've had a really great show. I'm so glad you came on.
Well, thank you. It's glad to be here.
Yeah, I'm glad you were. This has been the Probable Cause podcast. You can listen to us on Spotify or Apple. You can see all of these. They're posted on the Probable Cause Facebook page and on the YouTube website. Easily seen there as well. So we'd appreciate it, and I think you're really going to want to watch this one anyway. So anyway, for us at the Probable Cause, it is now time to say goodbye. This episode is filmed and edited by Frosty Pictures. The Probable Cause is produced by Maumee Media.
Worried when I crossed the Michigan line, a cop from Steuben County waiting on I-69. A headlamp went out while he pulled me over. Charged me with possession after I rolled down the window. Now that's skunk. Indians a trip when it comes to weed. It's like who doesn't smoke or use gummies? Your grandpa, your brother, your rich friend from school? Hell, throwing the whole courthouse and my attorney too. It's time those assholes change these stupid laws. It ain't worth the paper for a probable cause. Sitting on a bar stool in my usual place, this guy next to me said he was looking for some cocaine. Well, I just sold him an 8-ball with a little piece off for me. But my buyer was a cop? Should have known he was a creep. So I'm a dealer, right? You gotta be kidding. It's a rich man's drug. I just take it because I'm injured. 8 years in Westville with a monkey in my back. There's more drugs in here than you can shake a shank at. One dirty drug test, man, this system's flawed. Undercover screwed me in my probable cause. Street crimes never did me no favors. I'm hooked on Fetty. I'm a junkie, not a felon. Told that son of a bitch on the way to lockup. I can't seem to shake it. I need help, not mocking. What do you want from someone who's been through the system? Drugs all through the house before mom and dad went to prison. Throw me in jail and give me a fine? Someday I'll be dead and away from your kind. Now I'm at the courthouse in front of a judge. Can't say my public defender cares for me much. Crimes are committed on both sides of the law. God help me now with this probable cause. C shift never gets old. Anything can happen when you're out on patrol. You think I'm just eating donuts, man? Give me a break. Nothing on this job is a piece of cake. Lights and sirens activated, this knucklehead wants to chase. Baby mama at the scene just spit in my face. Wife's worried that someday I won't be pulling up at all. You'll read about my killer in a probable cause. She went through my phone and she seen my text. I told her forget it. It was just my ex. She took a swing and knocked me flat. Man, I went wild to get her back. Judge slapped me with a no contact order. Now she's got the kids and she's staying with her mother. So she started it all and I have to take the fall. You can read my whole story in the probable when I was young. Caught a case for dealing and did my time. Yeah, I got a record, but I was doing fine. Running my own business on the southeast side. Yeah, I got a gun. I kept it on hand. Told the cop my reason, thought he'd understand. In this neighborhood, you need some protection. Attorney thought I could get just community corrections, but the judge decided to send me to prison. Can't get ahead no matter how hard I try. Read the probable cause, it'll make you cry.
Whispers and rumors that don't get reported. Stories I write that are often distorted. Got my notebook and pen, and I'm ready to listen. Tell me the truth, I'll consider your position. I've seen killers with eyes so cold and dead, and others go to prison because of what someone said, rotting away for the rest of their lives, leaving a hole here on the outside. Things are sad here on earth, and it's no wonder why, when you consider the sociopaths who remain in charge. It's me who sees the system for all its flaws, and I usually start with the probable cause. My right hand is reading the probable cause.